What will you do as a manager of a multi-million-dollar company if the CEO of your company tells you to marry his only daughter so that he hands you over his company? You have a fiancée, you have promised marriage, and she has informed her parents, family, friends, relatives, and everyone is waiting for the wedding day, only for your boss to give you such a big and Herculean condition. What will you do? Who will you marry between your fiancé and your boss's daughter? Will you marry your fiancé for love? Or will you marry your boss's daughter for the money, power, and position? Chief Douglas, the CEO, sat behind his large mahogany desk, his eyes cold but firm. The weight of his words still echoed in Mike's ears. You will marry Irene, my only daughter, or forget about this company, Chief Douglas said. The room was silent except for the steady tick of the gold clock on the wall. Mike's hands trembled as he held his pen, but no words came out of his mouth. His heart raced. Mike was a brilliant young man in his early 30s. He had worked hard in the company for nearly 10 years, climbing from the lowest rank to become the trusted manager. Chief Douglas had come to rely on him more than anyone else. But now, this loyalty was being tested in the most unimaginable way. Mike loved Maya deeply. She was not only his fiancée but his best friend, the woman who had stood by him when he had nothing. They had laughed together, suffered together, and planned a simple but happy life together. Their wedding invitations were already printed. Her family had invested in the preparations. The church had booked the date. Everything was set. And now this condition that could change everything. Mike swallowed hard. Sir, he finally managed to say, I appreciate your trust in me, but asking me to marry Irene, I don't know how to answer you right now. Chief Douglas leaned forward, his voice low and commanding. Think carefully, Mike. I built this empire with my sweat and blood. I cannot hand it over to an outsider. Irene may not know much about the business, but with you by her side, I can rest easy. I see you as a son already, but I want you to become my son officially. That is my condition. Mike walked out of the office with a heavy heart. Outside, the city bustled with noise. Cars honking, people rushing, but inside his chest was a storm of confusion. How could he break Maya's heart? How could he betray her after everything? But then again, how could he throw away this golden opportunity? Owning a company worth millions, being in control of power and wealth. It was something most men could only dream about. That evening, Mike sat alone in his apartment. Maya called him, her voice full of excitement. Mike, my mother just bought my wedding gown today. You need to see it. It's so beautiful. Mike closed his eyes, his throat tightening. He couldn't tell her. Not yet. At that moment, Irene's name flashed on his phone. He ignored it. She had always been polite but distant, the kind of woman who carried herself with elegance and pride. They had never shared any personal relationship, only a professional one. And now she was being offered to him like a prize. Mike knew he had to decide soon. But his heart and his mind were pulling him in two different directions. Would he marry for love, or for power? Mike barely slept that night. He tossed and turned on his bed, staring at the ceiling as the weight of Chief Douglas's demand pressed down on him. He knew he couldn't delay the decision for long. Time was moving quickly, and Maya's excitement about their wedding only added to his torment. At dawn, Mike sat at the edge of his bed, rubbing his tired eyes. His phone buzzed. Another message from Maya. Good morning, my love. Just 1 month to our big day. I'm so excited. I can't wait to be your wife. Mike's chest tightened. He typed and erased several replies before finally sending. Good morning, sweetheart. I can't wait too. 'Twas a lie. He was waiting, but not with joy, rather with fear. Later that morning at the office, Mike was called again into Chief Douglas's private lounge. The air was thick with the smell of expensive cigars, and Chief leaned back in his leather chair, smiling like a man who believed he held all the cards. Mike, he said, have you thought about my offer? Mike shifted uneasily. Yes, sir. I've been thinking about it. And? Chief's sharp eyes studied him. Mike swallowed. It's not an easy decision. I already have someone I plan to marry. Chief waved his hand dismissively. That girl, Maya, isn't it? Look, Mike, she's a sweet girl, I'm sure. But she has nothing to offer you. Think of your future. Think of the generations to come. You could have wealth, respect, and power beyond imagination. My daughter Irene will stand beside you. With her by your side, you'll rule this empire. Mike lowered his gaze. But sir, what about love? What about the promises I've made? Chief leaned forward, his voice turning firm. Love doesn't build empires, Mike. Love doesn't pay the bills. Love doesn't secure your children's future. Money and power do. You have worked too hard to remain an ordinary man. I'm giving you a chance men would kill for. Don't throw it away. The words cut deep. Mike left the meeting with his head spinning. On his way back to his office, he bumped into Irene. She was tall, graceful, and dressed in a simple but elegant navy blue suit. She looked at him with a half-smile. My father spoke to you, didn't he? She asked quietly. Mike froze. Yes, he did. Irene sighed. I had a feeling he would. Mike, listen. I don't want to marry a man who doesn't love me. I know you're engaged to Maya. Everyone in the company talks about it. You're lucky to have someone like her. Her words shocked him. So, you don't want this either? I don't, Irene said firmly. But my father is stubborn. He wants things his way. Sometimes I feel like I'm just a pawn in his business chess game. Mike looked at her closely. For the first time, he saw not just the CEO's daughter, but a woman trapped in her father's shadow, just like he was trapped in this impossible choice. Then why don't you tell him no? Mike asked. Irene gave a bitter laugh. Because he won't listen. He never listens. He's the kind of man who believes his will is law. Their eyes met, both understanding the heavy chains that tied them. Irene leaned closer. Whatever you decide, Mike, just make sure you can live with it. Money fades, but regret lasts forever. Her words haunted him all day. That night, Mike finally gathered the courage to meet Maya in person. She was glowing with excitement as she welcomed him into her family's home. The house smelled of freshly cooked stew, and Maya's younger cousins ran around, giggling. Everyone looked so happy, preparing for the big wedding. Maya held his hand, her eyes shining. Mike, can you believe it? Just 4 weeks and we'll finally be husband and wife. Mike forced a smile, but his heart was breaking. He looked at her, at the woman who had sacrificed so much for him. Maya had believed in him when he was just a struggling worker. She had encouraged him when he had almost given up on his career. She had been patient through years of hardship. And now, when the reward of all their struggles was finally near, he was being asked to betray her. That evening after dinner, Mike sat with Maya outside under the stars. She leaned her head on his shoulder, humming softly. He wanted to tell her. He wanted to open his mouth and confess everything. But the words stuck in his throat. Instead, he whispered, Maya, promise me something. She raised her head, smiling. Anything. No matter what happens. Know that I love you. Maya frowned, confused. Why are you saying that? Course I know. You don't have to remind me. But Mike said nothing more. He just held her hand tightly, knowing deep inside that time was running out. Mike's nights grew darker, and his days heavier. The more he tried to focus on his work, the more distracted he became. Every time he saw Chief Douglas's face in meetings, he felt the pressure of the impossible choice. Every time Maya called, laughing and planning for their wedding, guilt stabbed him like a knife. One Friday afternoon, Chief Douglas called a board meeting. It was supposed to be about the company's expansion into new markets, but midway through, Chief's sharp voice cut through the room. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, soon I will be stepping aside and entrusting this company to a worthy successor. That man is none other than Mike. Gasps filled the boardroom. Mike nearly choked on his own breath. His colleagues clapped politely, but he could feel their envy. Chief Douglas raised his hand to quiet them. "But there is a condition. Mike must prove his loyalty, not just to this company but to my family. He will marry my daughter Irene, and together they will lead us into the future." Mike's world froze. Every eye in the room turned to him. He felt hot sweat roll down his back. Irene sat silently at the far end of the table, her face unreadable. He forced a stiff smile, but inside he was crumbling. How could Chief announce such a thing publicly without even waiting for his answer? After the meeting, Irene found him outside in the parking lot. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were burning. "I told you he wouldn't listen. Now the whole company knows. You're trapped, Mike. Whatever decision you make will ripple through your career and your personal life." Mike sighed. "I feel like I'm losing control of my own life." "You are," Irene replied softly. "And so am I. We're pawns in his empire." He paused. "But maybe we can find a way out. Together." Those words lingered in Mike's heart. For the first time, Irene didn't feel like the enemy. She felt like someone who understood his pain. That evening, Mike returned home late. Maya was waiting for him, smiling warmly as she carried a tray of food to the table. "I made your favorite, spicy jollof rice. You've been working so hard, you need some strength." Mike sat down, forcing himself to eat, but Maya quickly noticed his silence. "Mike, what's wrong? You've been distant for days. Did something happen at work?" He wanted to tell her, but the words stuck again. Instead, he lied. "Just stress. The company is going through some big changes." Maya touched his hand. "Don't worry, love. You'll handle it. You always do." Her faith in him broke his heart even more. Over the weekend, Mike drove out of town to clear his head. He stopped by a quiet riverside, the water calm and reflective. He sat on a wooden bench, staring at his own reflection in the rippling water. "Should I betray Maya and choose wealth?" he asked himself. "Or should I give up the empire and stay true to love?" His phone buzzed. It was Irene. Against his better judgment, he answered. "I know where you are," she said softly. "Can I join you?" Minutes later, Irene appeared, dressed casually in jeans and a simple blouse. They sat side by the river, the silence between them heavy. "I used to come here when I was younger," Irene said. "It was the only place I could breathe away from my father's expectations." Mike looked at her. "Do you ever wish you weren't the daughter of a powerful man?" She laughed bitterly. "Every day. Everyone sees me as a princess of wealth, but they don't see the chains that come with it. That's why I don't want to marry for business. I want to marry for love. But my father doesn't care about that." Mike sighed. "Then why doesn't he understand that I already have someone I love?" Irene shrugged. "Because to him, love is weakness. Business is power. And power must be protected." For the first time, Mike and Irene spoke like two ordinary people, not the boss's daughter and manager. Their bond grew stronger, not through romance but through shared pain. Yet, in that bond lay a dangerous temptation, a sense of comfort that Mike feared could turn into something more if he wasn't careful. When he returned home that night, Maya was waiting again. She looked into his eyes and said, "Mike, whatever is bothering you, please don't shut me out. We're in this together." Her words cut deeper than any blade. He hugged her tightly, whispering, "I love you, Maya." But in his heart, he knew the storm was only getting stronger. The wedding date was drawing closer. Chief Douglas was tightening the noose, and Irene was standing beside him, caught in the same trap. Mike was torn between two worlds, and both were closing in fast. The wedding invitations had already been delivered. Friends, family, church members, and colleagues were all preparing for the big day. Maya was glowing with joy, her laughter filling every room she entered. To her, the wedding was a celebration of love after years of sacrifice. But to Mike, every day felt like walking with a heavy stone on his chest. He couldn't escape Chief Douglas's shadow. At work, the older man constantly reminded him of the offer. At home, Maya constantly reminded him of the promise. Mike's life was stretched thin, and the pressure was unbearable. One evening, Chief Douglas invited Mike to his mansion for dinner. The house was grand, with marble floors and crystal chandeliers, a palace of wealth. Irene was there, quiet as always, her eyes filled with sympathy whenever they met his. During the meal, Chief Douglas leaned forward, his tone sharp. "Mike, the board has already accepted you as my successor. But I won't make it official until I have your word. Will you marry my daughter?" Mike froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. Irene quickly intervened. "Father, can we not discuss this now? Let him enjoy his meal." But Chief slammed his fist lightly on the table. "No, Irene. This is not just about food. This is about legacy. Mike must choose. If he refuses, I'll hand everything over to another, even if it destroys the company." The silence was deafening. Mike felt Irene's eyes on him, urging him to breathe, to not answer rashly. He forced a calm tone. "Sir, I will give you my answer soon. Please, allow me time." Chief grumbled but nodded. 1 week. No more. That night, as Mike drove home, his hands trembled on the steering wheel. He was running out of time. The next day, Maya dragged him to the church where they were to be married. The pastor welcomed them warmly. "Brother Mike, Sister Maya, your union will be a blessing. Marriage is built on love, sacrifice, and faith." Mike nodded silently, guilt swirling in his stomach. The pastor's words were like daggers. Love, sacrifice, faith. Did he still have the courage to live by those principles? Outside the church, Maya clung to his arm, smiling. "Mike, I'm so happy. Everything is coming together. I can already see us building our home, raising our children, growing old together." Her words should have warmed him, but instead they broke him. He wanted to protect that dream, yet a storm threatened to destroy it. Later that evening, Irene called him. Her voice was calm but heavy. "My father means what he says, Mike. If you don't give him your word, he will ruin you. He doesn't forgive betrayal. You may lose not just the company, but your career too." Mike rubbed his forehead. "Then what do I do, Irene? Do I betray Maya and choose power? Or betray myself and choose love?" There was a long pause before Irene whispered, "Sometimes the right choice is the one that costs the most. Ask yourself what you'll regret more, losing power or losing love." Her words sank deep into his heart. He thought about Maya's smile, her sacrifices, her unwavering loyalty. Then he thought about the empire, the prestige, the wealth he had always dreamed of. Both worlds pulled him apart. That weekend, Maya's parents organized a family gathering. They welcomed Mike warmly, praising him as the man who would take care of their daughter. Maya's father said proudly, "Mike, we are entrusting you with our jewel. Promise us you will never let her down." Mike nodded with tears in his eyes. "I promise, sir." But in his heart, he knew he was standing on a crumbling bridge. One wrong step and everything would collapse. That night, unable to sleep, Mike walked to his window and stared at the stars. He prayed silently. "God, help me. I don't know what to do. If I follow Chief, I betray Maya. If I follow Maya, I lose everything I've worked for. Show me the way." And deep in the silence of that night, he realized something. No matter what choice he made, someone would get hurt. The question was, could he live with the pain of betraying love, or the pain of betraying ambition? The wedding date was now just 3 weeks away, and Mike knew the storm was about to explode. 3 weeks to the wedding, and Mike felt like he was living 2 lives. By day, he was the brilliant manager preparing to inherit a multi-million-dollar company. By night, he was the troubled fiancé pretending to be happy about a wedding he wasn't sure would happen. Each morning, he stared at himself in the mirror, asking the same question: who am I betraying today? At work, Chief Douglas tightened the pressure. He called Mike into his office one afternoon, his voice sharp and final. "Mike, your week is almost up. I need an answer. Will you marry Irene and take your rightful place? Or will you walk away like a fool? Mike looked at him helplessly. Sir, this is not a business contract. This is my life. My heart. Your heart. Chief scoffed. Hearts are weak. Men who follow their hearts end up poor. I didn't build this empire with emotions. I built it with discipline and sacrifice. And I won't let a boy throw it away for a woman who brings nothing to the table. Those words cut deep. Maya brought everything to the table. Love, loyalty, sacrifice. But Chief couldn't see that. He only saw her lack of wealth. When Mike left the office, Irene caught up with him. Her eyes were soft, full of compassion. You don't have to give in, Mike. You can still choose love. If you marry Maya, I'll stand by you. I'll talk to my father, even if it means he cuts you off. Mike stared at her. Why would you risk that for me? Because I don't want to marry a man who doesn't love me. And because I know what it feels like to be trapped by someone else's decisions. Her words stirred something in him. He realized Irene wasn't his rival, she was his ally. They were both caught in Chief's web. That weekend, Maya insisted they visit the wedding venue together. The hall was beautifully decorated in white and gold, ready to host hundreds of guests. Maya walked around the place with joy in her eyes. Mike, can you believe this? Our dream is finally coming true. Mike forced a smile, but his chest ached. He wanted to shout the truth, that the dream was hanging by a thread, that her joy might soon turn into heartbreak. But he couldn't. Later that night, as they drove home, Maya rested her head on his shoulder, humming softly. Her trust in him was unshakable. That trust was the heaviest weight of all. One evening, Irene called again. Can we meet? Somewhere quiet. They met at a cafe outside town. Irene looked tired, as if she too was carrying the weight of her father's empire. She leaned across the table. Mike, you have to make your choice soon. But whatever happens, know this, I'll understand. You don't owe me your life. You don't owe my father your soul. But don't betray Maya. If you do, you'll regret it forever. Mike looked at her with gratitude. You're stronger than people think, Irene. She smiled faintly. And you're weaker than you realize, Mike. But you still have time to be strong. Those words haunted him. That night, he dreamed of two paths. On one side was Maya, in her white gown, smiling with love. On the other side was Chief's empire, towers of wealth and power. In the dream, he tried to hold both, but they slipped from his hands, leaving him with nothing. He woke up drenched in sweat. The next day, Maya noticed his pale face. Mike, what's wrong? You look sick. He forced a laugh. Just stress, love. Nothing to worry about. But inside, everything was breaking. The wedding was now 2 weeks away. Chief Douglas's deadline was just days away. Mike knew the moment of truth was coming fast. Would he choose love and sacrifice wealth? Or choose wealth and sacrifice love? Either way, his life would never be the same. The days ticked by like thunderclaps. The wedding was now less than 2 weeks away, and Chief Douglas's deadline was looming like a sword above Mike's head. Mike could no longer hide his turmoil. His eyes were sunken, his smile forced, his spirit heavy. Maya noticed. One evening, as they sat together, she touched his face gently. Mike, tell me the truth. What's wrong? You've changed. Your eyes don't shine the way they used to. What's haunting you? Mike opened his mouth but closed it again. His throat was dry. He wanted to protect her happiness, but he also knew he couldn't keep lying. Maya, he whispered, I need you to be strong. There's something I haven't told you. Her eyes widened. What is it? But before he could speak, his phone rang. It was Chief Douglas. With a trembling voice, Mike excused himself and stepped outside. Mike, Chief's voice boomed. Your time is up. Tomorrow I expect your answer. Marry Irene or walk away forever. The line went dead. Mike stood frozen under the night sky, his heart pounding like a drum. Tomorrow. He had no more time. That night, Mike sat alone, staring at the wedding invitation card on his table. His name and Maya's were printed in bold golden letters. He picked it up and wept silently. At dawn, he dressed in a suit and drove to Chief Douglas's mansion. The guards let him in, and he walked into the study where the old man waited, cigar smoke filling the air. Irene sat quietly in a corner, her face calm but sad. "Well, Mike," Chief said, tapping ash into the tray. "Your decision." The room was silent. Mike looked at Chief, then at Irene, then closed his eyes. When he opened them, his voice was steady. "Sir, I am grateful for everything you've done for me. You've been a mentor, a guide, almost like a father. But I cannot marry Irene. I love Maya, and I will not betray her." Chief's eyes blazed with fury. He slammed his cigar down. "Do you know what you're throwing away? Do you know what this means?" "Yes," Mike said firmly. "I know. It means I may lose this company. It means I may lose everything I've worked for. But I would rather lose wealth than lose the woman who stood by me when I had nothing. Maya is my life. I cannot sell her love for power." The silence was deafening. Irene rose slowly, her eyes glistening with tears, though not of sorrow. "Father," she said softly, "this is what real love looks like. This is why I begged you not to force this. Let him go. He belongs to her, not me." Chief's jaw tightened, his fists clenching, but the fire in his eyes slowly dimmed. He leaned back heavily in his chair, staring at Mike with a mixture of anger and grudging respect. "You're either the bravest fool I've ever met, or the wisest man," Chief muttered. He waved his hand. "Go. Marry your Maya. But know this, without me you'll have nothing." Mike nodded, tears in his eyes. "Then I'll build from nothing again. But I won't build it without love." Irene smiled faintly. "Good choice, Mike." Mike walked out of that mansion with no keys to the company, no promise of riches, just the heavy burden lifted from his heart. That evening, he went to Maya's house. She was waiting at the gate, worry etched on her face. When she saw him, she ran into his arms. "Mike, you're scaring me. What happened?" Mike held her tight, his voice breaking. "Maya, I almost lost myself. But I chose you. I will always choose you." She pulled back, tears streaming down her face. "What do you mean?" He told her everything. Chief's condition, the pressure, the empire he had just given up. Maya wept, but they were tears of love, not sorrow. She hugged him even tighter. "You chose me over millions. Mike, that's worth more than all the money in the world." They kissed under the evening sky, their hearts finally at peace. 2 weeks later, their wedding took place. It wasn't grand like Chief's empire could have offered, but it was filled with love, laughter, and family. As Mike watched Maya walk down the aisle, glowing in her white gown, he knew he had made the right choice. Sometimes love demands sacrifice, and sometimes sacrifice is the price of true happiness. Mike and Maya began their new life not with millions in the bank, but with something greater: faith, loyalty, and love that no amount of money could buy. And as Chief Douglas watched secretly from afar, he muttered under his breath, "Maybe the boy was right after all." What would you have done in Mike's shoes? Would you choose love with Maya, or power with Irene? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring life stories like this one.